The whole Mass takes its name from the last words of the Mass in Latin, ite missa est. And missa means sent. It doesn't just mean like, go, see you later, bye-bye. No. It has connotations of being sent with a purpose. It's got the same root as the word mission. You're sent with a purpose. It's the same word that a Roman commander might use with his army when he sends them on a mission. Why is that? See, because at Mass, all that we receive is not just for our enjoyment. God expects us to take all this grace and to explode into the world, to bring His presence everywhere that we go. This is from Matthew chapter 28. Then Jesus came to them and said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age." He wasn't just saying that to the apostles, guys. In a very real way, He says those same words to every single Christian throughout history who goes to Mass. That God who sent them is with us, and He's sending us into the world today. The Church teaches us that the Eucharist, the Mass, is the source and summit of our lives. It's the place we draw all our strength from to serve God, and it's where we bring all that we are back to God every single time that we go. The saints lived like this. They lived from Mass to Mass. John Paul II was a saint who was powered by Eucharist. He had a really difficult life growing up. His mom, who he loved so much, like any little boy would, died when he was only 8 years old. He looked up to his big brother so much, and his big brother died when he was 12. When he was in high school, Nazis took over his country. Shortly after, communists took over his country. And when he was 20, the dad he loved so much died. So he reflected when he was an old man about his childhood. He said, before I turned 21, I lost everyone I ever loved, including my big sister who I might have loved, but who they said died before I was even born. And despite the fact that he lived through so much darkness, so much pain, so much bitterness, this man wasn't renowned for being cold and kind of hard, kind of bitter. He was renowned for his love. Wherever he went to World Youth Day, he would draw hundreds of thousands of young people. And people could be a mile away from him. At a World Youth Day, they felt personally reached out to and loved, and in some mystical way, they actually were. John Paul II even loved the man who shot him at point-blank range. He thought he was going to die. And yet he reached out to this man, personally met him, and forgave him. Where do you get the strength to love like that after going through all that junk in your life? When he was an old man, he wrote about how he drew all his strength and support from resting his head on the chest of Jesus, and he was talking about the time he spent with the Lord in the Blessed Sacrament. Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati is another saint who was powered by Eucharist. Here's a young man who grew up in a wealthy family, kind of a worldly family, but had kind of a secret double life, serving and reaching out to the poor. His family didn't know this until he died a tragically early death at the age of 24, and his funeral was packed with poor people. You know how he described his motive for serving the poor? He said, "Christ comes daily to visit me in the Holy Eucharist. I return the visit by going to find him in the poor." Wow. And another great saint of the Eucharist, Mother Teresa of Calcutta. She served God in one of the darkest places imaginable. She served the poorest of the poor in the slums of Calcutta, India, where, thanks to the caste system, the poor were so utterly abandoned that they sometimes died in the streets. She and her sister started a home for the dying to give them a comfortable place to breathe their last. Some of these people were so abandoned that they literally spent hours every day picking maggots off the bodies of these dying people. Could you imagine doing that day after day, week after week, year after year, and nothing ever really seems to get better around you? Could you imagine doing that and not giving in to despair and continuing to love these people? Wow. I mean, look, being able to shoot webs out of your wrist, that's cool. But being able to love like that, that's superpower. How did she do it? Mother Teresa said, I couldn't continue my work for a single day or a single hour without the Eucharist. The saints were no ordinary human beings. They were powered by Eucharist. And you know what? So are you. You're no ordinary human being. Guys, the only difference between you and the saints is how are you responding to the grace He's given you. God is giving you no less grace than He gave John Paul II, Mother Teresa, and Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati. That's why that quiet time after Holy Communion is so essential. It's a time when we thank God and we offer ourselves back to the God who just offered Himself to us. No one else can enter my soul like that. And in that time I thank Him. And in that time I ask Him, Jesus, how are you sending me? See, because just like the saints, He sends each of us in our own unrepeatable way to explode with His presence into the world. See, because God isn't sending me, He's not sending your priest, He's not sending the Pope into your little circle of friends and family. He's sending you. He's sending you into your cafeteria to sit by that kid who has no friends. He's sending you into your gym class to stand by a kid who's being bullied. He's sending you into your locker room to stand up for the dignity of girls when they're being talked about by some guy. He's sending you into your home to reach out in love and be selfless when your parents ask you to do dishes, or to your little sibling who needs love and attention. God is calling you. Stop looking around waiting for somebody else to do it. He's calling you to explode into your world with His love. Misa, you are sent.